Ashley had learned long ago that VIP events were just regular parties wearing uncomfortable shoes. Expensive, sparkly, loud shoes, the kind that looked great on people who didn't have to run from one end of the hall to the other carrying trays of cocktails. She adjusted the black apron around her waist, gave herself the classic "you got this" look in the mirrored pillar beside her, and stepped into the golden chaos of the ZephyrTech Gala, the biggest tech event of the year. People buzzed everywhere like hyperactive drones, investors discussing numbers too big for human comprehension, influencers posing beside LED walls, executives pretending they weren't panicking about product launches. Ashley weaved between them like a seasoned navigator, balancing a tray filled with champagne glasses that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She'd worked dozens of these parties. Nothing surprised her anymore, or so she thought, because that was the night she first saw him. James Archer. The James Archer, founder of Connexa, the social platform used by half the planet, a man worth more than the GDP of several small countries, and yet somehow still known for being weirdly shy for a billionaire. Ashley spotted him not on a stage or surrounded by cameras, but standing alone near a glowing art installation that looked like a giant crystal octopus. He seemed deeply invested in a conversation with the octopus, or maybe he was hiding from someone behind it. Hard to say. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost a fortune, but sat on him like he'd put it on reluctantly, like clothes were an unnecessary negotiation between him and society. His hair was slightly tousled, his gaze drifting around the room as if he were trying to decrypt human behavior in real time. He didn't look bored. He looked overwhelmed. Ashley didn't blame him. The music was loud, the lights too dramatic, and the people, well, exhausting. She continued her route until a man with a badge reading "Operations Strategist of Something Very Important" waved her over. Ashley stopped, lowered the tray, and disaster. The man lunged too fast for a glass, hit her elbow, and one champagne flute flew like a tiny golden rocket straight toward James. "Nope, nope, nope," Ashley muttered, diving forward. The world slowed, the glass spun in the air. James turned just in time for Ashley's hand to snatch the flute mid-flight. She froze, one knee on the ground, tray wobbling in her other hand, her fingers gripping the glass like some sort of clumsy superhero. The surrounding guests gasped. Someone clapped. James blinked at her, stunned. That was impressive. Ashley stood, cheeks burning. "I'm trying to get a spot in the Avengers. Thought I'd start with glass catching." His lips tugged into a smile. Small, genuine, a little shy. "You'd be a valuable addition." "Well, if Tony Stark calls, I'll let you know," she said, then realized what she'd implied and mentally slapped herself. Tony Stark. Billionaire. Of course she picked that analogy. But instead of laughing at her, James only nodded thoughtfully, as if comparing himself to a fictional superhero was a perfectly normal conversational direction. "I'm James," he said. She knew. Everyone here knew. But he said it so simply, like he was introducing himself at a coffee shop instead of at an event, where people whispered his name like a magic spell. "Ashley," she replied. "Nice to meet you, Ashley." He paused, studying her tray, then added softly, "Are you okay? Your elbow took a hit." Her heart did a weird, fluttery thing. No VIP guest had ever checked if she was okay. Usually she was invisible, the human equivalent of background music. "I'm good," she said. "Just another night in high heels hell." James's smile widened slightly, the kind you had to earn. "I get that." She raised a brow. "Do you?" "Well," he tilted his head, "not the heels part, but the hell part, yes." Ashley let out a short laugh. "Honestly, same." He glanced around the room with a faint grimace. Events like this aren't really my natural habitat." "You don't say," she whispered. "You're blending in so well with the octopus sculpture." He looked at the sculpture like he hadn't even realized he was using it as cover. "It seemed quieter over here." "For now," she said. "Give it a few minutes. Someone will try to pitch you a crypto idea." James exhaled like a man who had survived that exact fate too many times. There was something unexpectedly human about him, awkward, kind, grounded despite the world he lived in, Ashley suddenly felt like she was seeing the real person behind all the headlines. Before she could say more, a cascade of camera flashes erupted near the stage. A staff member approached James. "Sir, they're ready for your keynote." James stiffened. His shoulders rose slightly, his breath noticeably shallow, like someone about to step on stage at a talent show they definitely did not sign up for. The staff member left, and James looked at Ashley with quiet panic. "Are you okay?" she asked. He hesitated. "Public speaking is, not my thing." Ashley gave him an encouraging smile. "Just imagine everyone's wearing ridiculous socks. Works every time." "Ridiculous socks," he repeated solemnly, as if committing it to memory. "Exactly. Can't be scared of people whose socks look like flamingos." A soft laugh escaped him, the quiet kind that made his eyes warm. He turned to go, took 2 steps, then spun back around with an expression somewhere between hopeful and unsure. "Ashley, I know this is strange, but..." He paused, searching for words. "Could you stay nearby tonight? I might need..." "Human," she offered. He nodded with relief. "Yes, exactly that." "Sure," she said lightly. "I can be your emergency human." His entire face relaxed. "Thank you." He walked toward the stage. Ashley followed from a distance, still carrying her tray, her heart unexpectedly lighter. She had no idea why he picked her. The girl passing out drinks, but she felt something shift inside her, like the night had tilted in a direction she couldn't yet understand. James stepped up to deliver his keynote speech. Ashley lingered just close enough to see him inhale deeply, then discreetly glanced down at his own sock hidden inside his shoe, and she bit her lip to stop herself from smiling like an idiot. She didn't know it yet, but that tiny moment, her and the billionaire in flamingo socks, was the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted, something that would rewrite both their lives. The next morning, Ashley woke with the kind of groggy confusion that followed an unusually vivid dream, except it hadn't been a dream. She really had caught a champagne glass mid-flight. She really had talked with James Archer like he was some guy she ran into at a bus stop. She really had told a billionaire to imagine people wearing flamingo socks, and he had actually listened. She lay staring at the ceiling of her tiny apartment for a minute, replaying his shy smile, the soft way he'd said thank you, the look in his eyes when he asked her to stay nearby like he genuinely needed her presence. Then her practical brain kicked back in. It was just a moment. He probably forgot her name within an hour. He definitely wasn't thinking about her this morning. Right? She sighed, swung her feet off the bed, and immediately stepped on a rogue sock that had escaped the laundry basket, not flamingo patterned, but close enough to make her laugh. Life went on, bills, rent, tips, real world. By noon, she was back at the catering company, tying a fresh apron and mentally preparing for another anonymous day. But the universe, apparently, had other plans. Halfway through stacking dessert trays, her manager approached with an expression she had never seen on him before. He looked scared. "Ashley," he croaked, "someone is here for you." "For me?" she asked, wiping her hands. "Why would anyone—" Then she saw him, James Archer, standing in the middle of the staff room, in a navy button-down and jeans that somehow made him look even more expensive, awkwardly holding a cup of water like it was a newborn kitten. The whole room froze. Cooks stared, servers gaped. Someone dropped a ladle. Ashley blinked. James?" Relief washed over his face. "Good. You remember me. I mean, yeah, you were here last night. Also, you." She gestured vaguely in the direction of his entire existence. He nodded as if that were an acceptable explanation. Her manager slid away into the shadows like a man fleeing a crime scene. Ashley walked closer, lowering her voice. Is everything okay? Did something happen?" James hesitated. "I might have taken your advice." She frowned. "Which advice?" "About flamingo socks." She almost snorted. "You didn't." "I did," he said gravely. "They helped." She covered her mouth to hide a smile. I'm glad my sock wisdom improved your keynote. It did more than that. He shifted his weight, looking at her the way people look at instructions they can't quite decipher. I liked talking to you, Ashley. Her heart did a little somersault. I liked talking to you too. He exhaled as if gathering courage. That's why I'm here. Ashley's stomach fluttered. No, impossible. Completely delusional. He continued, I have a proposition. Ah, there it was. A work-related thing, of course. Reality restored. What kind of proposition? She asked cautiously. A job, she blinked. A job? A temporary one? Maybe part-time, maybe flexible. He was rambling now, hands fidgeting slightly. I need help with something specific, something I'm not good at. What is it? She asked, leaning in. He swallowed. Being normal. Ashley stared at him. He hurried on. I'm serious. My board wants me to do a series of public Q&A sessions across the country, big ones, with users, regular people, and I don't understand regular people. You're a regular person. He gave her a look. Ashley, I ran into a sculpture last night because I thought it was an exit. She choked. Wait. What? It had legs, he muttered defensively. 2 of them. I assumed the other 6 were artistic embellishments. She burst out laughing before she could stop herself. James watched her with a mix of embarrassment and hope. This is exactly what I mean. I need someone honest, someone grounded, someone who can tell me when I'm acting like an alien trying to infiltrate Earth. Ashley wiped a tear of laughter. You want me to what? Coach you on reality? He nodded earnestly. Yes, you're joking. I'm not. He paused, then added softly, I trust you. Her chest tightened unexpectedly. She looked around the staff room at the metal trays, plastic containers, the faint smell of garlic, her world. And here stood a man who lived in a world of glass towers and billionaire meetings, asking her for help. What would this job actually involve? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mostly conversations, he said. Feedback, social translation, accompanying me to occasional user events, telling me when my answers sound like they were generated by a malfunctioning robot. Are they usually that bad? You tell me, he said. Ashley hesitated. Why me, James? He opened his mouth, closed it, then spoke with surprising simplicity. Because you're the only person in that entire room last night who talked to me like a person. Silence stretched between them. Ashley swallowed. I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't want qualified, he said. I want honest. She felt a rush of warmth and fear and disbelief. This would be paid, of course, he added quickly. Very well paid and flexible and... James, she interrupted gently, you're rambling. He froze, then nodded, almost sheepish. Right. She exhaled slowly. This was insane, completely insane. But the look in his eyes was sincere, vulnerable, hoping. Okay, she said, surprising even herself. I'll try part-time on a trial basis. His entire face lit up, not dramatically, but in a quiet, relieved way that made her chest flutter again. Thank you, Ashley. She smiled. Guess I'm officially your, what did you call it, reality consultant? That sounds about right. Then I have one starter tip, she said. What is it? When you visit a catering kitchen, she gestured at the stunned staff staring at him from behind the counters. Maybe give people a heads up next time. James glanced around as if only now noticing the crowd of gawking employees. Oh, he said. Right. Yes. Noted. Ashley laughed. She had no idea where this new path would lead, but walking away from him felt like walking away from a doorway into an entirely different life. And for the first time in a long time, she was curious enough to step through. Ashley's first official day as a reality consultant began with a car that cost more than her apartment building. It pulled up to her street at 9 sharp, sleek, silent, glossy, the kind of car that made neighbors peek through blinds and pretend they weren't staring. A man in a tidy suit stepped out and greeted her with a polite nod. Miss Hayes, Mr. Archer asked me to bring you to the office. Ashley blinked. This was happening. Her brain hadn't fully accepted it. Yeah, that's me. She climbed inside, clutching her tote bag like a security blanket. The interior smelled like leather and success. She tried not to touch anything, the city blurred by outside the tinted windows as she rehearsed possible conversations in her head. "Hi, James. Thanks again for the opportunity." No, too formal. "So, I'm here to fix your humanity." "Absolutely not." "Do I get dental benefits?" Why would she ask that on day one? By the time they arrived at the ZephyrTech headquarters, a towering glass structure that looked like an alien spaceship landed in the middle of downtown. Her heart was doing tiny acrobatics. She followed the driver into the lobby and froze. It looked like a cathedral built by someone who worshipped Wi-Fi. Vast ceilings, polished floors, holographic displays, a giant living wall covered in plants that were probably watered by robots. Employees streamed by wearing sneakers that cost more than her monthly groceries. But everyone carried laptops, everyone walked fast, everyone looked stressed and important. And then there was James, standing at the far end of the lobby, hands in pockets, watching the elevators like they were about to attack him. Ashley smiled. Of course he'd look uncomfortable in his own building. He spotted her and instantly straightened, giving a small wave that was way too cute for a billionaire. "Hi," he said as she approached. Hi." She looked around. "Your office is a spaceship. Is that good?" That depends. Does it come with seatbelts?" A faint smile curved his lips. "Only on the higher floors." She stared at him, trying to tell if he was joking. He stared back, expression unreadable. "This is your office?" she asked. "No," he said. "This is the lobby." "Your lobby looks like a museum." "People keep telling me that," he said thoughtfully. I think the architect was trying to impress investors." "It worked," Ashley muttered. He looked momentarily alarmed. "Do you think it's too much?" "James," she said softly, "your plants have their own climate system." He considered this seriously. Maybe that is too much." She laughed, warmth spreading through her. He wasn't showing off. He was genuinely trying to understand how normal people saw his world. And that was weirdly endearing. "Come on," he said. "There's someone I want you to meet." He led her through the hallways, employees watching with growing curiosity. Some recognized her from the news photos that leaked after the gala. She could feel eyes following her like she was a new app update everyone wanted to test. James pushed open a door to a large meeting room. Inside sat a woman with sharp eyes and a tablet, tapping rapidly. "This is Nora," James said, "my chief of staff." Nora looked up, eyes narrowing slightly at Ashley. Not coldly, just analytically, like she was running data points. "So," she said, "you're the consultant." Ashley resisted the urge to hide. "I guess I am." "She's here to help me with user engagement," James explained, "and with—" He paused, searching for the words. "Communicating like a person." Nora didn't even blink. "Good, you need that." "Thank you," James said stiffly. "Not a compliment," Nora clarified. Ashley decided instantly that she liked Nora. "So," Nora continued, tapping her tablet, "we have a Q&A live stream in 2 weeks. I assume Ashley will sit in on the prep meetings?" "Yes," James confirmed. Nora turned to Ashley. "Do you prefer coffee or tea?" Coffee?" Nora scribbled something. "We'll stock the break room. Also, your badge will be ready by tomorrow. In the meantime, stay close to James. If he wanders off, it becomes an issue." "I don't wander," James protested. "Last week you followed a therapy dog into an elevator and vanished for 40 minutes, Nora said without looking up. "It was cute," he muttered. Ashley covered a laugh. Nora stood. "Welcome to ZephyrTech. I hope he doesn't scare you off." Ashley grinned. "Not yet." James blinked. "Not yet?" Nora exited with a knowing smirk, leaving the two of them alone again. James exhaled. "She scares everyone." "She seems efficient," Ashley offered. "That's the problem." Ashley shook her head with a smile. "Okay, boss. Where do we start?" James made a face. "Please don't call me boss." "Sir?" "No. Your Majesty." "Ashley." "Fine, James." He relaxed instantly. "Thank you." They started in his office, a minimalist, sunlit room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The only personal touch was a crooked succulent on his desk. "I watered it once," James said defensively when she stared at it. "When?" she asked gently. "So, last year." "Okay." She took a deep breath. "Let's talk about your upcoming event." He sat across from her like a student waiting for tutoring. "All right," she began. "Pretend I'm a regular user of your platform. How would you greet me at a Q&A session?" James straightened, placed his hands on the desk, and said in a robotic monotone, "Thank you for engaging with Connexa. Your participation is a valued component of the interactive digital ecosystem." Ashley stared at him. He stared back, hopeful. She pinched the bridge of her nose. "James, have you ever met a human?" He blinked slowly. "I'm trying." "You sound like a refrigerator manual." He looked genuinely hurt. "A smart refrigerator manual?" "No," she said firmly. "A regular one." He winced. "Okay," she said, leaning forward. "Let's try something simpler. What would you say if you bumped into a user at a coffee shop?" James opened his mouth, paused, recalibrated his brain, and said, "Hello. I acknowledge your presence." Ashley slapped her forehead. "Oh my God, James." He looked up helplessly. "This is why you're here." And something inside her softened. He wasn't being dramatic. He wasn't exaggerating. He truly had no idea how to be normal in Oid Ashna, not because he didn't care, but because the world he lived in never required it of him. "All right," Ashley said, taking a long breath. "Lesson 1, people don't want to be acknowledged. They want to be greeted." He nodded seriously. "Explain." "A greeting," she said, "has warmth, personality, it shows interest. Try something natural, like, 'Hi. How's your day going?'" James thought for a moment, then said, "Hi, how's your existence?" She groaned. We have work to do." He smiled, just a little. "I'm glad you're here." Ashley met his gaze. "For the record," she said quietly, "so am I." They both looked away at the same moment, flustered but secretly warm inside. Working with him wasn't going to be easy, but she had a feeling it was going to be unforgettable. By the end of Ashley's second week at ZephyrTech, she had learned 3 important things. James Archer was terrible at small talk. James Archer was excellent at trying, and absolutely everyone in the building was watching them. Not subtly either. People turned their heads when she walked by, whispered outside meeting rooms, looked at James with a sort of fascinated confusion, like they were observing a wild animal doing something strange and unnatural, such as smiling, because James did smile now, more often than anyone had seen in years, especially when Ashley was nearby, and that, apparently, was breaking the company's internal gossip system. On day 13, the elevator doors opened and she stepped in beside James. 2 employees a few feet away exchanged looks so dramatic it could have been interpreted as Morse code. Ashley leaned closer and whispered, "Do they always act like this?" "No," James said calmly. "Usually they avoid eye contact. Well, now they're staring like we're a TV show." Maybe they're confused," he said, genuinely baffled. "I don't usually ride this elevator. I use the express one to avoid conversations." Ashley raised her brow. "So you're saying being near me is causing elevator chaos?" He nodded philosophically. "Likely," she laughed. "Glad to be useful." The elevator reached their floor, and James glanced at her with a tiny spark of warmth that still surprised her every time. "You're more than useful," he said quietly. Her breath caught. He didn't realize how that sounded. He was just being honest, at least she thought so. Later that afternoon, they met in a smaller conference room, less glass, more cozy. Ashley was chewing on a protein bar because she'd forgotten lunch again. James was pacing like an anxious professor preparing to defend his thesis. "Okay," she said, finishing her bite. "Today we practice your opening line for the user Q&A." He stopped. "I wrote 6 options." "Let me guess, they sound like robots?" He held up his tablet. "Only 5. "Let me see." He passed it to her. She scrolled through. "Greetings, valued participants. Welcome to our interactive, user-based inquiry form. Thank you for being here and contributing to the digital evolution." Ashley groaned. "Hi." She blinked. "Actually, number 4 is great." James looked offended. "It's only 2 letters." Yes, and they're friendly. Then she reached the last one. Hey everyone, I'm James. I built Connexa, but today I'm here to listen, not present. She paused. James? He fidgeted. Is it bad? It's good, she said quietly. Really good. It sounds human. Honest, like you. A slow, shy pride spread across his face. I wasn't sure, he murmured. I thought maybe it was too informal. No, it's perfect. You should lead with this. He sat down across from her, shoulders relaxing as if she'd lifted a weight off him. You know, he said, it's strange. I create systems that connect hundreds of millions of people, but I've never been good at connecting to one. Ashley felt something warm bloom in her chest. You're learning, she said softly, and you're doing great. James met her eyes, and something flickered between them, something unspoken, fragile, curious. He opened his mouth, maybe to say something more, but a loud knock shattered the moment. The door swung open, and Nora marched in like a tiny general with a tablet. Update, she said briskly. The board wants to watch tomorrow's rehearsal. James visibly froze. Ashley jumped in. He's ready. Nora slid her gaze toward her. All right. Let's hope you're right. Then she exited with the same speed she arrived, leaving James looking like someone who had just swallowed a battery. Ashley stood and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Hey, you'll be okay. He looked up at her. Will I? She smiled. You have me. He blinked slowly. Yes, I do. Her heartbeat did something that really should come with a warning label. The next day started with coffee, which, ironically, almost destroyed everything. Ashley arrived early and ducked into the break room to grab 2 coffees, one plain black for James, one ridiculous caramel whipped cloud for herself. She turned and froze. 2 engineers were standing near the refrigerator, whispering loudly enough to be heard. Do you think he's dating her? No way, James doesn't date. He brought her here personally, in his car. Maybe she's an investor. Dude, she's carrying a coffee with whipped cream. Investors don't drink whipped cream. Ashley nearly dropped both cups. Dating? Her? With James? Ridiculous. Ewy. She rushed out before they noticed her, heart pounding in her ears. By the time she reached his office, she looked suspiciously flustered. James noticed immediately. Are you all right? He asked. Oh, yeah, fine, just caffeine fumes. He looked at her with concern, taking his cup. You don't usually look alarmed around beverages. New skill, she said weakly. He studied her face a moment longer but didn't push. He never pushed. Instead, he took a sip of coffee, made a face, and winced. Ashley blinked. What's wrong? It's hot, he said, tone full of tragedy. James, you know coffee is hot? I forget, he muttered. She laughed, tension easing a bit, but the comments in the break room lingered in her mind like static. When the board members filed into the viewing room, 15 people with expensive suits and expensive opinions, James visibly stiffened. Ashley stood beside him like quiet reinforcement. His opening line was displayed on the screen. He exhaled slowly. You ready? She whispered. No, he whispered back. Perfect, she said. That's when humans are most relatable. He gave her a startled look and smiled. Then he stepped forward. Hey everyone, he said, voice steady but soft. I'm James. I built Connexa, but today I'm just here to listen. Silence, then nods, approving murmurs, a few impressed eyebrows. James glanced at Ashley, and she gave a tiny thumbs up under the table. He continued the rehearsal. It wasn't flawless. He stumbled, hesitated, over-explained twice, but it was real. And the board actually liked it. When it ended, one of the executives clapped James's shoulder. Best presentation you've given in years. James's eyes instantly flicked to Ashley. Her heart skipped. He knew why they liked it. She knew why they liked it. Everyone probably knew, but as the board left, James turned to her. You did that? He said quietly. No, she said. You did. I just nudged. He stepped closer, expression softening in a way that made her stomach twist warmly. Ashley, he said. I meant what I said yesterday. I'm glad you're here. More than you know. She opened her mouth. A knock interrupted. Another interruption. This time, an assistant poked her head in. James, your car is ready. He sighed. Right, I have a meeting across town. Then he looked at Ashley. Will you be here when I get back? She swallowed. Yes. He smiled and left. Ashley stood alone in the room, heart pounding, trying to understand what exactly was happening between them. Because whatever it wasn't part of her job description. James didn't return for another 3 hours. Ashley spent the first 15 minutes reorganizing sticky notes on his whiteboard, the next 10 trying and failing to fix his dying succulent, and the rest pacing the length of his office like a stressed cat. Which was ridiculous. She had work to do. She had absolutely no reason to feel this unsettled. Except, yeah, she did, because the way he'd looked at her before leaving, soft, hopeful, almost vulnerable, was the kind of look she'd only seen in movies where the soundtrack gets warmer and the audience whispers, "Oh no, they're falling for each other." Only this wasn't a movie, this was real life. And in real life, billionaires didn't fall for waitresses turned reality consultants. Right? She tried to distract herself by reading through user feedback threads for Connexa, focusing on troubleshooting, UI pain points, and everything she understood better than the mess inside her chest. But every time the office door clicked in the hallway, she looked up. Ridiculous. Finally, around 4:30, James walked in, hair a little windswept, tie loosened, expression tired in the way people looked after spending hours negotiating with humans. The moment he saw her, his shoulders relaxed. You're still here, he said quietly. Of course she was. She'd said she would be, but something about the relief in his voice made her cheeks feel suspiciously warm. You all right? She asked. He nodded. The meeting was grim. How grim? They started using metaphors. Ashley gasped dramatically. No, anything but metaphors. One of them compared the app metrics to a gasping fish. She clutched her chest. That's brutality. And another said we were standing at the edge of a digital cliff. She winced. Poetic and threatening. James sank into his chair, exhausted. I'm so tired of cliffs. Ashley chuckled and walked to the window, pulling the curtains to dim the sunlight. He watched her with the kind of attention that felt heavier than the moment deserved. Better? She asked. Yes, he said softly. Thank you. She sat on the edge of the desk, one foot lightly swinging. Tell me what happened. He rubbed the back of his neck. They want more user interaction events, more vulnerability, more openness, more connection. Well, she said, lucky for you, you're training with the best normal person coach in this hemisphere. A faint smile curved his lips. Do I get a certificate? Absolutely. Printed in Comic Sans. He groaned. Please, no. Ashley laughed, and he watched her again with that soft, distant expression. Like she was something he didn't quite understand, but was determined to figure out. They worked late, planning talking points and navigating absolutely catastrophic attempts at casual phrases. What's up, my friends and peers? Which she immediately vetoed. When the clock hit 7, Ashley checked her phone. Oh, shoot, I forgot to eat again. James stood abruptly. Let's fix that. She blinked. What, like, order something? No. He hesitated. Let me take you to dinner. Her heart stuttered. In dinner? Yes, he said simply. With food and chairs and plates, that sort of thing. She opened her mouth, panic firing like a glitch in her brain, because this wasn't normal. Bosses didn't invite employees to dinner. Billionaires didn't invite regular people to dinner. And she absolutely did not want to misinterpret anything. James, is this a work thing? She asked carefully. He paused, too long. Finally. It doesn't have to be. Her stomach dropped and flipped simultaneously. I don't want you to feel pressured, he added quickly. I just thought, I enjoy our conversations. You seem to enjoy them too. We could continue them, somewhere with food, but if that's uncomfortable, we don't. James, she interrupted gently. Breathe. He inhaled, exhaled. She considered him, considered herself, considered the very obvious, undeniable spark that kept happening between them even though neither of them knew how to handle it, and for once, instead of overthinking, she let the truth slip out. "I'd like that." James blinked, slowly, cautiously, as if making sure he'd heard her correctly. You would? Yes. She smiled. "Dinner sounds nice." A small, stunned smile appeared on his face. "Okay, good, great." Then he froze completely. "Oh, no," he said quietly. "What's wrong?" "I don't know where people eat." Ashley burst out laughing. "You don't know where people eat?" "I usually have meals brought to me," he admitted, horrified, "or catered at meetings, or prepared by my home chef. I don't go to places." She stared at him, half sympathetic, half amused beyond reason. "Okay," she said, hopping off the desk. "I choose. You pay." He nodded instantly. "Ideal arrangement." "I know a place," she said. "It's quiet, comfortable, no paparazzi, no fancy nonsense." "Perfect," James said, following her toward the elevators. "But one question." "Yes?" "What is nonsense in food terms?" She sighed. "It means the plates don't look like abstract art." "Good," he said seriously. "Abstract food scares me." Ashley took him to a tiny Italian place tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore. Dim lights, mismatched chairs, the steady sound of clinking dishes. The kind of place where nobody cared about money because the menu was laminated and the owner yelled at customers affectionately. James stood in the doorway, absorbing the scene like he'd stepped onto an alien planet. "This is," he whispered, "real." "Yes," she said, smiling. "That's the point." They were seated in the corner booth. James looked at the menu like it was a quantum physics exam. "Do people usually know what these words mean?" he asked. "Most of them," she said. He pointed. "What is gnocchi?" "Little potato clouds." He brightened. "I like potatoes." His innocence was disarming. They ordered. He copied her dish because choosing was apparently too stressful, and when the waiter left, James folded his hands like this was a crucial business meeting, except his eyes kept drifting to her. You know," he said quietly, "I've been trying to understand something." "What?" "You make me comfortable." Ashley's heart tightened. "In this building," he continued, "everyone expects something from me. Performance, innovation, perfection. But with you, I don't feel, observed or evaluated. I just feel." She swallowed, her pulse quickening. "Feel what?" she asked softly. He hesitated. Before he could answer, their food arrived, breaking the moment. James flinched so hard he almost knocked over the water glass. "Relax," Ashley whispered, laughing. "It's just lasagna." He nodded, embarrassed. "Right, yes, lasagna." But even while they ate, she could sense the unfinished sentence lingering in the air, hovering between them like a tiny glowing question that neither of them was ready to touch. Still, she felt it, the shift, the spark, the connection growing stronger with every quiet glance and clumsy confession. By the time they walked out into the cool night air, Ashley knew one thing for certain. She was in trouble, and James, sweet, awkward, brilliant James, was too. The ride back from the restaurant was quiet, but not the awkward kind of quiet. It was the charged kind, the kind thick enough to feel in the air, warm enough to glow somewhere between them. James sat beside her in the back seat of the car, hands folded, shoulders relaxed, for maybe the first time since she'd met him. He kept stealing quick glances at her, as if checking she was still real. Ashley stared out the window, trying to steady her heartbeat. Dinner was supposed to be simple, friendly, professional-ish. Instead, it felt like stepping onto a bridge they weren't sure was safe. But both kept walking anyway. When they reached her apartment building, the driver parked at the curb. James leaned slightly forward, looking out at the old brick facade with obvious concern. "You live here?" he asked gently. She smirked. "Don't judge." "I'm not judging," he said quickly. "I'm analyzing." "That's worse." He frowned. "It has character." Ashley laughed. "That's the polite way of saying it needs repairs." James hesitated. "You don't feel unsafe here, do you?" "No, it's cozy." He still didn't look convinced. She reached for the door handle. "Thanks for Wait, he blurted. She paused, heart jumping. He looked unusually uncertain. I had a good time, she softened. Me too. And I don't want to misinterpret the situation. Misinterpret how? He took a slow breath. Are we crossing into something beyond work? Ashley's stomach flipped. A million thoughts raced through her head. Don't rush. Don't assume. Don't get hurt. But then his eyes open, searching, not demanding anything, just wanting clarity. What do you think we're doing? She asked quietly. James blinked, hard. I don't know. That's the problem. I know how to build a platform for 50 million people, but I don't know how to do this. She smiled gently. It's okay not to know. I want to, he added softly. Her breath caught. She opened the door before she did something reckless like lean closer. Good night, James. Good night, Ashley. She stepped out, closed the door, and walked toward her building, fighting the urge to look back. She made it 5 steps before she did. James was still watching. And when he saw her glance over her shoulder, he gave the tiniest smile. Ashley disappeared inside with knees weak enough to qualify as a safety hazard. The next morning, Ashley arrived at ZephyrTech determined to be composed, professional, and emotionally waterproof. That lasted 8 minutes, because the moment she reached the top floor, an unfamiliar woman approached her with a bright smile. You must be Ashley. James said you like your coffee with caramel, right? I made one for you. Ashley froze. James said that? Of course. The woman beamed. He emailed the whole executive floor, said to accommodate her preferred caffeine style. Her preferred caffeine style. Ashley's brain nearly short-circuited. She thanked the woman, took the cup, and hurried down the hall, cheeks burning. She found James in his office, hair slightly messy, typing furiously with one hand while drinking his own coffee like it might save his life. He looked up the moment she entered. Oh, he breathed, as if relieved she hadn't vanished overnight. Good morning. James, she said, holding up the cup. You emailed the entire executive floor about my coffee order? He nodded, completely unbothered. Yes, why? Because that's insane. He blinked, confused. It's just coffee. It's not just coffee, she said, trying not to laugh. It's personal. So, did I do something wrong? No, it's just, she sighed. James, people are already talking. About what? The dinner. Oh, he said thoughtfully. Yes, they asked if it was a date. She nearly dropped her cup. What? And what did you say? I said I wasn't sure. I didn't want to answer incorrectly. Ashley groaned into her hands. James. He stood. Ashley, if it bothers you, I'll correct them. Right away. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. She lowered her hands slowly. His face was earnest, open, worried about her, not himself. Something inside her twisted, something she didn't want to name yet. It's okay, she said softly. Just maybe let's stay under the radar a little. He nodded firmly, like she'd given him an important mission. Understood. I will adjust visibility settings. That's not... She stopped herself. Close enough. Around noon, Ashley slid into the break room for a snack. She reached for a granola bar and froze. A young programmer named Mia was standing with James at the coffee machine. Pretty, smart, confident, leaning a little too close. And I really admire your work, Mia said with a bright smile. I've been here 3 months, but I've watched your talks for years. Oh, James replied politely. Thank you. Ashley turned to leave before they noticed her. Ashley, James called suddenly. She cursed internally and turned back. Hey. James gestured to her like she was the solution to a problem. Mia was asking me about the new user interface tests. You know this better than I do. Ashley blinked. I do? He nodded like it was obvious. Yes, you're the expert. Mia looked deflated. Ashley felt guilty for enjoying it. She walked closer. Sure, what's the question? As Ashley explained the new changes, James stood beside her, very close, listening like every word mattered. When Mia left, James turned to Ashley. You okay? Of course, she said quickly, too quickly. He studied her. You looked. It's tense. No, I'm fine. I'm absolutely not fine. She's very smart, James observed. Mm-hmm, Ashley murmured, opening her granola bar like it personally offended her. And friendly. Yep. And she asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime. Ashley nearly choked. She what? James shrugged innocently. But I said no. Why? He blinked. And why would I get coffee with her when I already get coffee with you every day? Ashley's brain flatlined. He's impossible. And sincere. And sincerely impossible. She swallowed. Okay, that's logical. And besides, he added casually, I don't want to get coffee with anyone else. Her heart did that dangerous melting thing again. James, she said carefully, you have to be careful how you say things like that. Why? Because they sound loaded. He frowned. Loaded with what? She hesitated. Meaning. He opened his mouth, but before he could ask another painfully honest question, Nora stormed in with her usual storm energy. Emergency meeting, she announced. We need both of you. Both? Ashley echoed. Yes, Nora said. Half the company now thinks you two are dating. We either address the rumors or let them run wild. Ashley turned pale, James turned red, and Nora added with impeccable timing, preferably before HR set something on fire. The HR emergency meeting ended up being less catastrophic than Ashley had feared. Mostly because James handled it in a way that could only be described as honest and slightly awkwardly charming. He stood before the assembled department heads and executives, hands clasped nervously. There's been a lot of speculation, he began, about Ashley and me. A pause. Murmurs fluttered through the room. He swallowed. Yes, she is my reality consultant, and yes, we spend time together outside of work sometimes, but nothing inappropriate. I just appreciate her perspective. Ashley wanted to shrink under the collective gaze of the company, but when she looked at him, she saw something raw and human, not the polished billionaire mask the world expected. The room calmed. Whispers softened. People nodded. Someone muttered, "He's actually normal." Afterwards, they walked together back to his office, laughing quietly at the absurdity of it all. Normal? Ashley asked, shaking her head. Normal for a billionaire, James said with mock solemnity. Ashley smirked. I think you're doing fine at this normal thing. Am I? He asked, glancing at her with the faintest flicker of hope in his eyes. Yes, she said softly. You really are. Over the next few months, their lives intertwined in ways neither had expected. Ashley's days at ZephyrTech shifted from purely professional to a seamless blend of work and subtle companionship. She continued coaching him through presentations, Q&A sessions, and user events, but now they also shared small moments, grabbing coffee, finding a quiet spot in the company garden, laughing at each other's clumsy attempts at casual conversation. James learned to navigate human interaction not just through guidance, but through trial and error. And Ashley discovered a side of herself she had long ignored. She was capable of navigating a world she had once deemed foreign, all while remaining true to her grounded, humorous self. They didn't have a defined relationship label yet. That was irrelevant. The point was in the moments, the silent support, the shared laughter, the honest conversations that bridged their worlds. Connexa began evolving as well, not through flashy algorithms or AI gimmicks, but through the simple, honest insights Ashley provided. Small changes, making the platform more approachable, less intimidating, more human. James noticed that user engagement increased, not from viral campaigns or PR stunts, but from genuine connection. One evening, as they sat side by side reviewing feedback, James said quietly, I didn't just help me. You helped them too. You changed things here. Ashley smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. We changed things. Together. He looked at her, his usual guarded demeanor softened. Yeah, together. Something unspoken passed between them. Not a declaration, not a confession, but a shared understanding. They were building something meaningful, both in the company and in their lives. One Saturday, James invited her to a small, unassuming spot he had discovered on the outskirts of the city. No cameras, no reporters, no board members, just the two of them and the quiet hum of the evening. They sat on a bench, watching the sun dip below the skyline, casting warm golden light over the rooftops. Ashley leaned back, taking a deep breath. "I didn't think this would happen," she admitted softly. "Neither did I," James said, "but I'm glad it did." She looked at him, noticing the faint wrinkles around his eyes from smiling, a detail no public photo could ever capture. "I'm glad too," she said, heart fluttering. He reached for her hand, hesitating just long enough to make the moment feel sacred. "You know," he murmured, "I don't need any algorithms to tell me this is, right." Ashley squeezed his hand. "Neither do I." For the first time, neither of them worried about titles, expectations, or the outside world. It was simply them, two people from completely different lives, discovering a connection that didn't need to be justified. And for once, life felt beautifully simple. Months later, the office still whispered about the billionaire and his reality consultant, but it didn't matter. Ashley had grown confident in her dual worlds, the vibrant chaos of ZephyrTech and the grounded warmth of her own life. She had friends, new skills, and a quiet pride in what she had helped shape. Not just the platform, but James himself. James, meanwhile, had learned the subtle art of human connection, laughter, and emotional vulnerability, and he'd realized that wealth and power were nothing without someone who made life feel real. One evening, after another casual dinner in a tiny Italian restaurant they both adored, James held her hand across the table. "You know," he said, "I still can't believe I found you." Ashley laughed, the sound warm and easy. "You just needed the right consultant." "Best consultant ever," he corrected, smiling. And in that moment, with mismatched plates, warm lights, and the hum of the city around them, they both knew. The future looked different now. But it was exactly the way it was supposed to be. Because they weren't perfect, they weren't predictable, but together, they were perfectly them. And that was enough.